Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I'm absolutely buzzing to have a very, very special guest. Today's guest is Jonathan Ronin Royle. This man has achieved a great deal in the fight game, bare knuckle boxer, former MMA fighter, kickboxer, has fought for world titles, has achieved a great deal, has a documentary out about his life and his life journey. But because as is always the case with my interviews, it's not just about fighting, but today we're going to be talking about some really inspirational things that this man has been through in his life, he's overcome, and he's come out the other side of. And trust me, it's going to blow your mind. Some people will have heard the story, some people won't have heard the story, some people will have heard bits of the story. Whatever your situation is, stay tuned because there's some very, very cool topics coming up. And for yourself, champ, thank you for coming on the show. I mean, it's awesome. I've wanted to do this a long time, so it's a real pleasure to have you on, basically.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Appreciate it being invited.
Yeah, no worries at all. So we've got a lot to talk about because you've lived one hell of a life. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Highs, lows, everything in between. Now, like I was saying, I don't always start at the beginning, but I think to do your story justice, we will start at the beginning in your early life and basically how you started your martial arts journey, because I've seen you speak about how martial arts has transformed you, changed your life, changed who you are as a person. You look at it in a very profound way. But going back in time when you were growing up, where were you first drawn to that warrior lifestyle, as you've described it, basically?
It was straight away back, well, flashingly, I don't know where that was. So if I, if I cut sort of the excess off, basically, I was like in a stage in my life where I was young and I was partying, and I've already had always had an older, set of friends who've always been a lot more mature than, people the same age. So, and was at a party. One of the guys that I was already brushing shoulders with was like a very, very good martial artist, like very, very good. He was a King of the Ring champion, Thai boxing, really, really sick on the ground. Like this guy's a well-rounded guy. But I don't know, I've been to fights. I'd been to a fight in Nottingham, which was Clash of Warriors, and there was still no thing. But whatever happened was at this party, and there was another guy there called Lee Price. I'll shout him. Lee Price Martial Arts, really, really good quality martial artist. It's like the British Bruce Lee. That's what I was called him. So we're at this party. I'm with Justin, who's the guy I'm talking about. He was the guy that was a King of the Ring champion, and Lee Price was there. We're all, absolutely wasted. Do you know what I mean? Young, always getting fucked up at this house party, and we just started talking about fighting. I'm just stood with these two guys, sick fighters, a pair of them, individually in their own careers and rights. And there's just me. At this point, I'm just a BMXer. I just rode BMX and smoked pot and, worked whatever, And they just, Lee Price gets this card out of his pocket and it's like, there's a 30-day free membership. Come down, train with Justin, and, we'll take it from there, whatever. And I did, that was on the Saturday night. On the Monday morning, 9 a.m. I weren't working at the time. I turned up at Justin's doorstep, and that was it from that day forward. Full time, and anybody at this place of age, Black Belt School, Lee Price could vouch. Anybody that knows me could vouch. You know what I'm saying? That was 5 days a week, full time. And I wouldn't leave Justin's that day till probably 8 at night. I'd be there from 9, we'd go for a run. We'd go to the gym, boxing, obviously boxing drills, and I was writing CDs, skipping, but it'd be all day. We'd be there till 3 in the afternoon until the classes starts. We'd be drilling like fuck. Other guys would be coming in, joining in, and instructors would be coming in, pointing us, and yada yada. And that was like that for years. Justin was like a, you know, he was like a, you know, he was a mentor. Do you know what I mean? He brought me into that sort of life, you know, and yeah, so that was that. That was where it started. That was as simple as it was. An house party, wasted.
That is wild, man. Fair play. I mean, pretty much by chance, pretty much destiny, fate, whatever you want to call it, absolutely amazing. So obviously, you're glad you went to the house party now, and obviously,
Uh,
going into the gym and what you've described there from being in early at the morning till late at night, pretty much love at like first sight for you then type of thing, when you got in there. At what point did you realize that you could go far with it? Because usually when I have champions on the show, they go through a phase where like obviously they find out they love it, they get into it. But then they actually start to realize actually it's more than just loving it. I can take this a long way. And there's like that transition, if you get what I mean with this. How did that happen for you?
I don't think, you know, like I'm so, you know, I'm so doubtful. Like I'm a really bad critic, so I don't think there's been a. I think maybe when Jesus, um, maybe before the world title fight for WKU, maybe before that. But I don't really, you know, I don't know whether it's because I don't look at, you know, maybe it's because you know, they weren't the reasons that I came. Do you know what I mean? They weren't the reasons why I started knocking on the door. In a different respect, as opposed to going far, like there was definitely a point where I got a taste for it, and you know, my confidence grew from that. I can't be away from it. When I'm away from training the way that you have to train like that, I'm not confident. Like I'm not the person that I want to be. I'm very, very low in my mood. I'm not, you know, I'm not the same guy like that. So I'd say definitely was a point where I knew that there was a level that I was sitting on. Like I knew where I sat at the table, sort of thing. Like I could hold myself, like I know where I was cut from, sort of thing. There was that definitely, you know. And I think that's why I went there. It was for development. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to be confident, you know, and I wanted to be cut from bread like that. So definitely for that, 100%. You know, I knew about that bit.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I love some of this stuff with the mindset type of stuff because what's cool about it is it's obviously what people don't see. It's what people don't see from watching the fights. It's like, people in the gym and people who are fighters, they'll know. But in a way, that sort of thing's behind the scenes. Now, we'll come to some fights in a minute, but you've also been sort of quite vocal about how martial arts has improved you as a person, as a human being. Like when I was watching your documentary, you said about how like the discipline and some of the good qualities from it have moved into other parts of your life or something along those lines you were talking about. And I think the reason I'm asking you this is because, if there's youngsters out there who are partying and they are doing the things you were doing and they are a bit lost, obviously showing how it's improved you as a human being as well as being the warrior that you are, obviously, but in other areas of your life, I think it would really help them. So that's the reason I'm asking is like you mentioned about your confidence, but let's go a little bit deeper into that side of things, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, sure, man. I'm open.
Cool. That's good. Because inspiring the youth is a big part of why I actually do these. Do you know what I mean? It's like giving some of those lessons that people have learned, like great people like yourself who've done it, reached this high level, done these top things, and then giving some of those lessons back to people who need them, whether they go into fighting or not, or whatever they need it for in life. It's a big part of why I do what I do, basically.
I think, you know, see, like, I've been put in a position, right, where I get a lot of people who'll turn to me, like, you know, they'll open up and they'll want to talk and stuff. And, you know, and again, vouch, you know, my first thing that I always say, like, none of the other things matter. Like, if you haven't got attachment to something that, you know, gives you a purpose, you know, people that know 100% as people will be able to say, you know, you did say it. If you haven't got things, it doesn't even necessarily mean, you know, that it could be this. You know, it might not be kickboxing, it could be something entirely different. But I think if you're not dabbling, if you're not like taking efforts, because yeah, you might go to a martial arts class, but you might also meet someone in that martial arts class who you'll gain the discipline from the martial arts, and you actually meet people that are behind whatever cause it is that you're trying to take on. Do you know what I mean? And there's always that, it's like it's a different type of family that you'll make in there. Do you know what I mean? And you can't lose. I'm deja vu every time I'm saying stuff. Like, you can't lose like that when you've got people that are rooting for you like that behind you. They're the people that you've got behind you. You cannot lose at all. Like, it's inconquerable that way. So even, it doesn't matter what. That's why I always say martial arts might not be for you, but go there, go and do it. It's I don't know anyone that started martial arts and not gone back through it. It's not because they didn't like it or whatever. It's always because of other reasons. But it's one of them. Obviously, it's not for everyone. And that's why I say, it might not be this. But if you haven't got the attachments, nothing to look forward to that you think about a lot that isn't a person or a place, like a sport or a discipline and art or something like that, then if you've got the yearning for it, you're never going to do bad at it. You'll only build good around it. That's what I took from mine. 100%. 100%.
Amazing. There's some great life lessons there, man. Big respect for sharing that, because there's some life lessons you've learned over, a long time you've been doing this, but like, they are life lessons, and it's not just martial arts. So I love that. Changing the subject, the name Ronin, obviously, it's got to be one of the coolest names around at the minute in the fight game. And obviously, you've got the tattoo as well, which is wicked. I'll get you to show that off in a minute. But where did that name come from in the beginning? Was it there from quite early on, or did it
No,
become later?
no, it wasn't. Like, so basically, so I don't know how far out of respect I can go, right? But it's a question that's never been asked. Yeah, I'll say that. And what I'll say before I carry on with it is, through all, anyone would think of it, everyone knows where I'm placed in saying what I'm about to say. Like, I couldn't love this person more. They showed me, a lot in life, from who I was when I entered that gym to the person I left 4 or 5 years later. What it did for me, no one else was guiding me at that point, and I weren't like everyone else. I had my first coach. He was like I said, he was a brother, he was a mentor. He's Justin, and obviously, like, I think I've got my own ideas of why things shaped the way they did, but he obviously spent a lot of time on me, like 5 days a week. This guy, from morning to night. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was like a relaxed, sort of. It was relaxed because it was routine, and we both loved what we were doing. We were training, training hard. Even if we'd left the gym and we just stopped training, we'd end up grappling on his kitchen floor, ground and pound routines on his kitchen floor, like gnarly shit. And then we'd be cooking, eating, and then we'd sit and have a smoke and chat and have a laugh, maybe play on the PlayStation or something. And then we'd train again. We'd go for a run, we'd hit pads on a hill and, doing fucked up shit. We'd be running like 2 lamppost sprint, 1 lamppost jog, and then we'd both just say it. Like, he'd take a turn, I'd take a turn, and then next lamppost drop and 20 press up, spin round, and we'll do it again. And I just mental. So I think with that, obviously, like I said, I met Justin through partying. Like, a lot of the people on my social media networks, where I'm from, my hometown, know Justin. Very, sort of respected guy, in a lot of ways, and we were partying, like, after fights. I'm one of them. I'm not a big drinker. I don't drink a lot. Like, I always say, I drink after fights, and if I'm feeling shit, I'll have like a month. I'll have a few weekends out, and I'll do it that way. I'll get it done that way. And yeah, like, I don't know how to word this one. Like, he just went down a different path, like, and he fell to an addiction. Um, like, for me, in the worst way, like, because we're, you know, I don't know how to explain. He was a lot older than me, and we're like that. You know, he's my brother out there, and still to this day, I 100%. If you know, if I got a call and I were needed, I'd do. There's nothing I would not do for this guy. There's nothing I wouldn't do for him. And I did. You know, like, I was trying to pull him back in, and you know, keep him closer to me, and that would avoid it, and it didn't. You know what I mean? The more, you know, there were no. It got to the point where there was no for him hiding it. You know, it was that obvious now, and you know, he weren't even making efforts to hide it. You know, in a lot of ways, and and that was that. Like, you know, we were cancelling training, and you know, and it weren't a case of, you know, what the fuck, why is he doing this? It's sort of like, you know, like, what can, you know what I mean? Like, what else can you do? All I can do is keep asking him to train, and da da da. And it was one of them. I had to carry on training. You know, I couldn't, you know, I couldn't lose what I'd sort of, you know, built up in momentum, sort of thing. We weren't really fighting a lot. I was taking on a lot of, you know, we took on a lot of fights, a few fights, kickboxing, and the 100-round fight together, like, you know, and yeah, so that was that. It, you know, that happened, and you know, it was like I carried on training under the same gym, and there was nothing after that. There was nothing after that, you know, and there was no one that put the time in, and you know, looking at, when you've got someone looking out for you like that, there was no one after that that really looked out for me the same way, you know, especially the fight game. I was a young boy, and so it come from that, you know, it come from that. And I think for a lot of my mates at the time, they knew that, you know, that was it. That was the bond severed. You know, there was a few other things, like I said, my best friend, which I told you about, you know, it was, you know, Ronin, you know, you know, I do this, I've been doing this alone. This is, you know, I'm fortunate in recent times I have had a lot of support and a lot of help, you know, but, you know, I know where I come from, do you know what I mean? And that was, I think along that whole line, that's where it came from.
Makes a lot of sense, man. I mean, it's quite a story, and if that's the first time you told that,
It
then,
is.
you know, big respect for telling that on here. Thank you, because, you know, I always say to people, man, we do get into some personal stuff sometimes with these interviews, and I'll never put pressure on people or sort of probe into people's stuff, because that's not what I'm about. I'm only about taking positivity, you know, taking positivity and putting it, you know, passing it along. But at the end of the day, I kind of figured you must have told a story before, but if you haven't, then thank you, man. That's, you know, that's quite a personal thing. So, all right then. So moving into some of the fight stuff, and we will talk about other aspects of your life outside of this. But your first, say your first fight or your first couple of fights, you know, when you first started out, actually, you know, getting into the ring and competing, I think that's going to be of interest to people, because now obviously you're, you know, you're like up here, you know, you're this successful champion, you're living this warrior lifestyle, and you're doing everything you're doing. But obviously you started somewhere. So from the mindset point of view, in terms of how you were feeling going into the fight, say your first one, say your debut, what was that like for you, in your own words, type of thing, very early on, you know?
Um, I've got to correct as well. I'm not a current champion.
Well,
Um,
that's true technically, but personally, I gotta just jump in.
oh,
Sorry. Personally, I would just say I see you as one because of everything that you've overcome to get where
thank you.
you are. So
I
it's,
appreciate
I
that.
mean, I appreciate technically with the belt and with the thing that was fixed, and there was some stuff that went on and all that, and there's various things. But yeah, I mean, champion at heart. Let's put it that way. You know.
Thank you. Sorry, no, thank.
Oh, no
I was
worries.
like that. I was thinking, oh no. So you get someone like saying, oh, he's been lying or whatever. But my debut, there's so many different things that I could say could qualify as a debut fight, because there was a lot of times where I changed styles. I changed rule sets that I fought in, you know, I couldn't even, I think if I think about like probably the most nervous I've ever been, then it would be comparable, you know, and it's, for me, it's, I think from a debut, I remember, if I go technical terms, say my first proper debut fight where I had no experience, it's my first one in. Yeah, I did not want to be there. I did not want to be there, but I think because Justin was over us that day, it was like, it was more about who I was going in with that day. Definitely, I was going in with Justin. He was well respected in the gym as well. Like, sure, there was other people that were better in different styles, but Justin was just a beast. You know, Justin was a beast when he was very creative. So that was what I went in with. You know, it was really not wanting to be there, but I was walking in with Justin. I was walking into the worst situation I could think of at that time, definitely, because that's why I wanted to start. I wanted to toughen up. I wanted to be, I weren't the hard man in school. You know what I mean? I weren't ever looked at, no one ever thought of me as an hard, tough kid. I weren't what was thought about me. So, yeah, walking into the worst situation possible, but with Justin. uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
fair play, fair play. I love it because, again, it shows the human side of things, I mean, the amount of champions and top contenders or whatever, who've told me about like how they had to master nerves and master that type of thing. I mean, people assume fighters are so tough they don't go through it, but obviously they do. I mean, we're all human at the end of the day. You get what I mean.
Mm.
So all in all, then, if we're because obviously with the fights you've had, we're talking about some key ones now, but we won't be able to talk about them all because you've been a busy man, and I want to talk about some other things you've come back from. But how many fights have you had? If you look across it with like kickboxing and MMA and bare knuckle and everything, do you count?
It's the messed up thing is that because obviously with kickboxing, you could have like 3 or 4 in a day on a kickboxing tournament. You know, but I've done 6 tournaments. Last tournament I did was WUMA, WUMA, that was over in Wales. And I fought in 2 or 3 different categories in one day, 2 or 3 different rule sets, as did one of my students at the time. But I'm confident saying my amateur kickboxing, it was easily 24, 25 fights confidently. And then my MMA only fought once under a rule set for a professional rule set in MMA. If I combine them, then yeah, there's 60, maybe 65 fights split between kickboxing, Thai kickboxing, K1, which I've had 4 in. You know, it's just been so split up. I've literally gone across every different rule set. I fought in Thai, Clash at Cresta under Pele, Stephen Primrose, he was one of my coaches, kickboxing world champion, 3 or 4-time world kickboxing champion. And he was obviously a student of Amir Sabatic, who's a coach of Andrew Tate, so I come through a lot of legit guys and fought. I couldn't say we fought a lot, but confidently 60, 65 combined with my amateur stuff. Probably more, to be fair. I'm not, that's just a long shot, 60, 65 fights easily.
Yeah. Well, fair play. I mean, you've been busy. I've seen, obviously, you see videos and you see all different things, but, combine them all together, I had to ask, let's get into your personal highlights then, because obviously with that, the way I usually break this down, because I have a lot of this where people have like 60, 70, 80, 100 fights, and obviously I'd love to talk about them all, but we'd be here till next week. So, in terms of you, like your favorite moments, your proudest moments, some of your best wins. I mean, it doesn't matter like what form it comes in, but just the ones that stand
Does
out.
do these have to be fights? My favorite moment.
Well, you could, hey, if something else comes to mind in the life area, then you can put it out there, man. I'm easy, you know.
I mean, it's relevant. This is like when probably it's like a time when you asked me when was the time where you realized you could go far with this. I'll tell you. I got a phone call one morning. I mean, I was training hard as well. Like I'm, dedicated as fuck onto the journey. Like, sorry to swear. But, I got a phone call like 8 a.m. Steve Primrose, who, like I said, he was a, 3 or 4 time world time. He was a big name at one point. There was a lot of big fights we were doing, and he was a beast, and he was one of my coaches. And he rings me at 8 a.m. and he's like, "Hey, Johnny, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm in bed." And he's like, "Nah, you come and train and run up to mine." And I'm like, "I'm not running up to yours." And he said, "If you come up to mine now, you'll thank me later." Like, he's from London, so he's like, shout, "Come on, Johnny, fucking hell," and all this down the phone. And first thing in the morning, I'm like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." So I jump out of bed and I sprint up to Steve's, like, just 2-3 mile. And I've got there, blown out my ass, open the door. He's like a legend, K1 legend, Gago Drago. Open the door. He's like one of my idols, and he's just sat on Steve's sofa. I don't know if you're aware of him watching his fights. The guy's sick. Like, the guy's a beast.
Yeah.
Gago Drago. So I'm sat there like, shit, is it him? And then he started speaking. He's like Almerian. So he's like, "Hey, tell Steve to take too long." And I'm like, "Steve, like, this guy's going fucking crazy," because Steve's been getting ready for like 45 minutes, losing his shit in Steve's front room. And I'm like, I've gone upstairs and I'm like, "Steve, Gaggle Draggle's downstairs in the front room going absolutely crazy." And I don't know what to say. Well, that's probably, yeah, that is one of my favorite moments. So, I mean, like, it's not often you get to, walk into your coach's front room and Ronaldo sat there. It's, but yeah, that's one of them. For fights, though, it's funny because, like, I've had some good wins, and, like, especially in the kickboxing, I had some good solid wins in kickboxing and MMA. But my favorite fight is one that I actually lost, to be fair. And saying goes, I've had a lot of good fights, but, like, I think that fight, I took it as a debut, but I'd never boxed. I had a lot of kickboxing experience, a lot of high level kickboxing experience as well. We didn't get, um, like, easy fights or anything like that. That's not the way it works. We always got tough fights. But I was a debut boxer, and I think Steve Gale was like 13-0 at that time. But that's one of my fights. That was the one for me that, taught me a few things. Yeah, like, it did. It definitely taught me a few things, and as well, like, I learned a lot about who I am that night. Because you watch the fight back. I didn't quit. And even when I did quit and I got back up, I was still forward. I was still, I was still in the danger zone. I weren't scared. I weren't worried about going down. I showed myself who I was that night. Do you know what I mean? And that was it. That's my favorite fight. It's on YouTube. That was for a British boxing 75-kilogram title. And listen, Steve's a beast. He wanted to actually get on the professional circuit. And I'm sure, no disrespect, Steve, will get this wrong, but I'm sure, don't quote me, and I'm sure he suffers with diabetes, and that's why he can't get his pro license. But this, and this is one of those guys that can't go down that route. He's a serious kid. He's not just your average white collar unlicensed fighter. This guy is a serious, serious piece of equipment. You know what I mean? And the fight's a good fight to watch. And we said it after the fight. We chatted and that, and it at the end of the day, that is a fight that you'd like to watch. 100%. That's not a boring fight. That was two guys unloading, and being skillful, and You know, it was a good fight. So that one. And my other one is against a Ukrainian. Steve Primrose was there for this with a tie. Don't quote me, was it a C class? Steve might correct it in the comment section at some point. But I'm sure it was tie C class rules. It was a show called Clash at the Cresta in Altrincham. I don't know if you've heard of Pele. He had a quite well-renowned gym up in Manchester, Thai kickboxing gym. And it was one of his students. He was called Lucas Kudransky. And yeah, what a sick fight, by the way. Like we all went out that night, and I think there were 3 guys that fought. There was myself, another guy called Chris Coward, another solid motherfucker called Farid Ali. Farid was an absolute monster, by the way, like monster, like outright. And we all just got given like the worst fights in the world. Like it was just absolutely insane. Chris Coward got like a multinational Thai kickboxing and freestyle kickboxing champion. Like this guy was not just a good fighter, but a serious martial artist, like a well pieced together martial artist. And it was visible. It was like watching one of those YouTube videos, and it's like Shaolin monk versus karate master. It was nuts. I remember after Chris's fight, he's come to the back room and it's like legs just black, like your legs just been obliterated. And Farid had a crazy guy who was like spitting in his corner, and it was just crazy. And like, so I fought last, like close to the end of the night, and I'm like, shit, this is wild. Like we're fighting these guys in the literally annihilate this gym. They're just annihilating everyone. And I just went beast mode. I did it just like absolutely like chin down. He's quite a lot taller than me. I like sort of threw like a dirty boxing K1 style little combo at him, and you know, sort of body shot head straight off, you know, like 2 very quick shots, whack whack, and he's down on the deck. You know, I'm not kidding. I'm looking at this guy and he's asleep, like he's gone. And I've looked at everyone and I've looked back at him and he's still gone. So I'm like, right, birthday suit, spin around. There's loads of people like from my hometown. Like I'm celebrating, like, and I could just hear. It was like coming up from a bad dream. That's the way it was like. So I could hear Steve's voice, your coach's voice coming back in. Johnny, fucking look, Johnny, you're not fucking concentrating. I'm looking at Steve, and he's going, you're fucking stupid. And he points to the other corner. I turn around. My guy stood on his feet, nose bent, and he's just hitting himself in the face like that. Come on. You know, he's saying, come on. And I'm like that, holy shit. Like this guy bumped, I'm not kidding. He couldn't have put a more well-placed shot that I put on his chin. Like he couldn't have got it, and it was full power, max. I was straight over, big winding overhand right that I threw over the top, and it was dust. And I'm not kidding you, I probably had the 2 worst rounds in Thai kickboxing that I've ever had in my life. I didn't get annihilated. I didn't get, you know, I think I lost by like, it was like a point or 2 points. It weren't even that bad. It was like by skin that I lost that fight. But for the volume and power of the shots that we were exchanging in that fight was nothing short of disgusting, because he were pissed. Like, and you know, I think he knew he had to make up for that knockdown. That was it. You know, those next 2 rounds were the hardest 2 rounds I've had ever.
Wow.
That was it. Them a free favorite, definitely.
That is amazing. I mean, I love asking that question because, you know, you never know which ones are going to come up. You do have some idea, but you never know exactly which ones are going to come up. I love the first story. Shout out to Drago as well. He's been on this show, by the way. So
Has he been on?
yeah, amazing guy, amazing achievements. But those stories are your fights as well, top class. I love it. So
He
go on, yeah.
that guy Goldjack, he is mental, by the way. I spent a couple of days with him and Steve Primrose through Manchester. It was absolutely wild.
I bet it was, man. I got that. I mean, I've only met him like this, but I got that vibe,
Yeah,
even from meeting him like this.
a
But
very excitable fellow.
yeah, that's the way of putting it. 100%. Yeah. So one of the things we need to touch on with this is a couple of things in your life outside of the ring, basically, and again, not to dwell on anything negative, but to focus on some things that you've overcome. And
Mm,
one of the things that I think is amazing how you've overcome this is the homelessness situation, is the fact that, basically you've been in these situations out of work, struggling to eat and this type of thing. And your life has been a story of highs and lows. So I know with this, we're moving sort of forward in time a little bit. But at that time, can you share in your own words a little bit about what happened, but also a bit about like how you come back from that? I mean, how you come back from a situation that most people would think it's over, you're done, you're down and out, but you've obviously pulled yourself back from the brink, if you get what I mean.
um, God, this is the I didn't have to be homeless. That's the worst bit about it was I didn't have to be. I had a choice. I could have easily at any point just gone, right, nah, that's it. I'm gonna move back home with my family. But I was in Scotland. There was no one at the time really that could have put me up, and you know there'd been favors already done, so it was one of them. Like I was faced at a point where I could, stay in what I'll say is like the just an unhealthy situation, which is with an ex. I could move back to Manchester and be with my family, but be hundreds of miles from my son. I was very involved with him. Or I could stay in Scotland and be homeless. So I stayed in Scotland and was homeless. That's what I chose. I weren't leaving, my son. It was as simple as that. I didn't, that's the worst bit about it is because every time he was suffering with it that was the first thing in my head, just go home. Just go home. And then I'd speak to my family and they'd say, just come home. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, like, it's not happening. It's not happening. So that's as simple as it was. That was the route that I had to go. And I think coming back from it, um, I honestly couldn't say, I think when you're going through something, there's 100% of you that it requires to get out of that. And I think if you can apply yourself, fully apply yourself for and that was all it was for me. It required 4 weeks to fully apply myself. Like every last bit of my day was changing that situation, which took its time. I didn't, you know, uh, I didn't sit and wait, for anything to fall into my hand. It could have easily, my life could have at that point when I sort of chose the homeless route, could have easily gone in 100 different directions when you've got decent set of fighting skills and you're in the middle of Glasgow homeless, easily. There were X amount of different, I'll say, opportunities at that time that were being offered, that that's not for me. Do you know what I mean? So I think as long as you're true to yourself and you do what's in your heart, if you do truly what's in your heart, then nobody, not even yourself, can ever argue with it. And that's as simple as it is. You I think you come out of some situations when you're ready. It's when you're ready. You come out when you're ready. Not losing faith. That's one of the big things for me. You don't. If whatever I thought of when I was 16 in this sport, or 15, whenever that thing happened, and I'm sort of, yeah, I'm going to do this. I honor that. And that's as simple as it is for me. I honor it.
Yeah. It's powerful, man. Again, it's a life lesson. This is why I was saying at the beginning. I mean, the things you've overcome in your life, got all the respect in the world for it, man. Because and for sharing it as well. For putting these types of things out there. It's a brave thing to do. I don't care what anybody says, you know. I mean, I know you're an open guy, but still, you know, it's amazing what you've overcome. Same type of thing with this car crash situation as well. And again, I know we're moving slightly further forward in time again, I think, with this. Correct me if I'm wrong with any timelines here. But obviously, same type of thing, man. I mean, bouncing back from that, again, would have finished a lot of people off. Um, but you're still here, you're still smiling, you know, you're still competing. I mean, you know, obviously you're still very much a family man as well. And I've heard you saying about that being a very important part of your life, and you said that now. So coming back from the car crash, same thing, man. In your own words, what happened, and most importantly, how you bounce back from it. You know, same type of thing.
So it come about, believe it or not, when the documentary was being filmed. Obviously, like I said, when that was being filmed, that documentary happened by total chance, and then it was at a point when life was sort of looking up. I was coming to the homeless thing. I had a house, I was decorating it, I had a car, I had a job, everything was great. And during that documentary being filmed, I got hit in my car, which was it was nothing. I got a sort of a replacement car, and my car was written off. And so, like a short while later, I was paid out from that crash. And the funny thing is, when I got paid out, I was sort of like, all right, well, my life's good, but this money, I've sort of suffered. That's the way I looked at it. I was like, this, I've suffered for the money, and I'm going to buy the car that I've always wanted with it, which was like a Jag X type, but like a stealth black edition. It was like cut from cloth. It was the proper, the most nuts. It looked sick. So I bought that. And again, this is, a series of gut feelings and foresight. That's all I can say it is. But I bought this car, and I'm not kidding you. I have no idea why, but when I sat in that car in the forecourt and I turned the engine, my stomach sank. And it was the weirdest feeling ever, like, because I should have been buzzing. Do you know what I mean? So I drove out the forecourt, and I'm driving back. I'm driving back to obviously my house, and I think I can't even remember like whether this was later on in the day, but I think it was. I think it was the next day. I was driving on the motorway, and see how like the cars in the road. I hit one, just obviously changing lanes, and my tires deflated, and I'm like, what the fuck? So I rang the garage, and they said, bring it to them and they'll repair it. They'll put all my tires on. What I found was the tires were like all defective, like screwed, like they were like, it's like they've been deflated fully and left for years, like just shapeless. So I told them about it, and they said they'd repaired it. So I'm like, at that point, I've basically been fucked to the car garage here, and I like they've sold me a piece of shit. So I've got the car back the same day, and the next morning, I rang them and told them the brakes were a bit weird, like it didn't feel right. And it was just like, with the brakes are new, da da da. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I was teaching a kids class in the morning. I'd finished the class, left, I'm driving home, and there's like this country road who's told to it's like an ex-girlfriend. So I'm down this country road, and there's like a long bend. I come around the bend, and there's a lorry, like like I'm just stopped dead in the road. Indicators, no hazards, nothing. It's just there, right at the end of the bend. So I'm like doing, I don't know, like probably 50, 60 mile an hour country lane, cruising, weren't ragging it. It's next type in it. You're not doing like sports car treatment on it. It's a cruiser. That's what it's for. So I'm just like, yeah. So I tried to like, indicate, get around him. There's another lorry coming. So I'm like, shit, I'm trying to brake. The brakes aren't there. there's a lorry coming in towards me. There's a lorry in the middle of the lane there. So I'm like, fuck, I'm trying to slam on, full lock it and try and get it in the ditch. Obviously, like, I'm saying that now, and that sounds not much, but by that time, I'm already underneath, actually under this truck. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's it. Like, I'd sort of got half of it sort of out under the inside. It had turned the car over. It was, yeah. So that was that. And I don't remember nothing, but like, there's bits I remember, right? I'll tell you. So I'm in the car, and obviously I've hit my head, right? But at that time, I didn't know that I'd hit my head. Like, I just know that everything looked weird as fuck. Colors were dead bright, and I felt like the door was opened, got out of the car, and I just stood there like, apparently just repeating myself to the guy in the truck, and apparently I'm just saying, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. That's all I could say. And then I've made a call. I've settled everything, gave my details over. Again, the guy said that I was just whacked, it wasn't. And I've gone home. He's gone. He left first. He left before me. And that's when I made a call and gone, but I didn't open, apparently. I opened the door. I was fucked. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't like, do you know what I mean? Like, but the door opened, I got out of the car. It was like I helped out the car. Fuck knows, like, I've told it to, like, people that are close to me before, and make of it what you will. Um, and I'd gone home, and like, I'm one of them. I'm not down for medication. Like, I'll look at alternative stuff. Like, I'll use CBD out of camp, like the whole, anti-inflammation, inflammation, all the other stuff that it's got with it. I'll use that before I pop paracetamol and aspirin, cocodamol, or anything like that. So that was my intention, and then I started feeling like, don't know, like, just didn't. Like, I get hit in the head for a living. I didn't feel that right. So I've gone to hospital. They've done, obviously, inject dye and stuff, and that went from there. We're getting carried away with that, but that's how it all come about.
That is wild. And in terms of your recovery, then, because obviously with an injury like that, how long did it take you to be back to rights? Like after they found what they found, type of thing,
The worst. That's why I stopped myself. They didn't find nothing. They actually let me go home. Right,
okay.
it's fine. They told me I had a fractured rib, so I was coming into a title fight. I think I was about 4 weeks out from a title fight. So I'm saying to him, my coaches, but the promoter, my manager, these people need to know. They need to see paperwork. If I've got broken ribs, I need paperwork to say that I've got broken ribs. If I've got piles, I need something to say that whatever I've got, I need paperwork for it. And if I've not got it, I need that too. If I've got no broken ribs and I'm totally fine, I need paperwork to say that now. So they sent me home with a broken rib. I was still running. Like, this is what, because my coach, Chris Dixon, Integrity Martial Arts, any of the fighters or students will vouch on me on this. I was running 12Ks, 5Ks, 8Ks every day, 6 days a week after that accident. I was sparring 6, 8, 10 rounds, shark tanks. I was running 12K before class, training till 9:30 at night, 8:30, 9:00, 9:30 at night. And then, like 3 or 4 sessions a day. Like, this is after the crash. So I get called out the blue. The crash was 12th of February. I get called on the 25th of February. And it's the same consultant that dealt with, like, another query that I called with. And he's like, oh, listen, confirms who I am. And he's like, listen, we've got some bad news. Like, how you been? Has everything been okay? How's your relationship? And I'm like, what the fuck is this doctor asking me these questions for? And he says, you haven't just got one broken rib. You've actually broke. It was like, I can't remember which rib numbers it was, but there were like 4 or 5 ribs broken on my right side and 3 or 4 broken ribs on the left. 2 of them, one of them was pressing on my liver, one of them. So I was at like high risk of puncturing my liver. I'd already been sparring at this point for 2 weeks. And then he's like, and I'm like, right, okay, and he talks about healing. He went, but that's not the worst of it. And then he's like, it was called bilateral contusions of the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe's like, is who you are. It's all all your decision making is everything. Like, it's everything about who you are is in the frontal lobe. So he's like, just drops it on me like, you can't drive anymore. You can't fight anymore. You can't, your driving license as of this phone call is revoked. You're not allowed to drive legally. And yeah, just literally flip my world upside down within a few sentences. And then he's saying, you can't trust anyone. You can't trust yourself. Sorry, no, you can't trust yourself. You might view things as one thing and you might feel certain ways about it and yada yada, and you can't trust it. So all of that basically now is just like gone from being Jonathan with one broken rib to disabled. You know what I mean? That's basically what happened. Do you know what I mean? Like slowly, sort of over the next few weeks, things started happening. Like the effects of that injury definitely started taking place. I couldn't train anymore. And I lost my job, which was in child protection, because I weren't able to make decisions that I needed to. So that job ceased. So then I had to move to Manchester. There was no way of doing it anymore. Couldn't maintain a house. There was no one that could, it's sort of, I was saying it before, that it was biblical, because everything that I'd spent so much time avoiding, fighting to be up there, to be my son, going through homes, everything that I'd endured and suffered, like I was forced to do it. There was no, so then, yeah, so I come down here. I'd already been really concentrating on my recovery. I was obviously like, admission into like a brain injury trauma treatment center doing my recovery and stuff. And I think about 6 weeks later, and I was busting ass. I was basically staying in my room and training, going to the gym, training, running, and that's all I did. Didn't see nobody. Nobody come to see me and help me. Like, and but that was as way it was. No one helped me rehab. No one was there making sure I did my runs. Nobody knew where I was at with this injury. And I did it. 8 weeks later, 31st of March, I was discharged fully with a 100% recovery from a traumatic brain injury. It's like a 1 in a million. You know what I mean? Like it should have done, like, if not dead, should have done some shit to me. Do you know what I mean? It should have fucked me up. And then, so then, like I did, you push through it. That's it. What do I do? What else do I do? That was what it was. Do I just sit there? I could go run downstairs now and they still medically want to sign me off from working. I'm not doing that. I work. But, I could choose that. Do you know what I mean? Like I'll never accept limitations. Not like that. No way.
Wow, that is incredible. I mean, I tell you what, I've heard some incredible stories on here, but that is something else, man. I mean, that is really something else. Yeah, 1 in a million. I mean, obviously with this, there's a spiritual, I mean, you said about the biblical side of things and everything. And do you believe that there is a sort of spiritual power in whatever form you interpret that to be, looking out for you or protecting you or guiding you or however you look at it? Because I think that was something you mentioned, when we were setting this up in that screenshot you sent me, What are your views on the destiny type of thing and that topic, you know? Big question, I know, sorry, just dropped that on you, but
No, I like that question. That's a good question. Um, Destiny. You don't really have a choice in it. You know, you don't really have a choice. You know, that's the way it's going. You know, that's the way I look at it. There's, you know, ultimately, when I look at it from the documentary, like I said, coming out of homelessness, I should have just gone to Manchester. I should have just done that. Do you know what I mean? And you know, I think no matter what you do, you know, and whatever you choose to do in life, you'll see remnants of it, you know, and it's undeniable. From, you know, if you're one of those people that don't really pursue something, right? There's a reason why every single person, sports person, musician, you hear him talking about it. Divine, oh my God, what's the word?
an intervention type of thing, is it?
Divine inspiration
Oh
is
yeah,
where
yeah.
it's coming through you. Like you're not, you know, and I think there's a reason why so many people like us, like yourself, that will sway. They'll understand because they will be, you know, these are the same people that will suffer for it. They will see the other things that the other people won't see. Do you know what I mean? And that's the way I look at it. You know, and anything like that, you know, anything that exposes you something like that, that's your destiny. If it's just something that continuously happens to you, I couldn't tell anyone what their destiny is. But you know, your calling's your calling.
Yeah, we
Can't
don't
be
see it.
ignored. It
Yeah,
can't be ignored. You know.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I've personally experienced this, so I know exactly what you're talking about, obviously, and I know a lot of other people who have as well. So, um, I'm on the same page with that one. Now, I'd love to get into that more. I'm gonna have to, I mean, 15, quarter past, maybe 20 past, I'm gonna have to shoot off. So we've got a little bit more time. But it's just flowing and the time's just gone by in a flash.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm thinking of sort of condensing the last couple of things because I'd love to talk to you more about the spiritual stuff. I'm resisting the urge, and
yeah. Sure,
we can talk about that again,
100%.
just you and me, you know. But in terms of like your future plans from here, because obviously we talked about past, we talked about present, we talked about a lot of stuff. The youth work and the work with children that you were doing, by the way, before. A lot of respect for that, just from me to you, you know, giving back to
Thank you,
people
brother.
in need, you know, and everything, and contributing to people. Love that. That's not a question. I just wanted to say. But in terms of like where you go from here, and you know the fact that your life's in a good place now. Again, with the documentary, you know, you talk a little bit about the future. Obviously, certain things may have changed since then, obviously. But in terms of yeah, what's lighting your fire and where you're going in your next steps? I know that's a big question, but maybe even if we look at it over the next couple of years or the next, I don't mind. I mean, you go as far ahead as you want to, really, but just the future and what the dream is for you from this point forward, basically.
Been my, you know, I've done stale. I've done my recovery right. I took 2 fights after my fights, and I've done my recovery. I've sat and waited to see how those fights have, you know, took some shots in those fights. I had a brain injury. We've waited, you know, and took some time out, 6 months. Stopped training 6 months ago. About a month ago, we started training, and for me, I want everything's going to be in full swing in the next 12 months. 100%, 100%. There's no, you know, if I'm going to shy away from a word now, then I may as well just not do it. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at. You know, it's these next 12 months for me are imperative. You know, absolutely imperative that things go the way that they're planned out to go. There's a lot of talk right now back with the States. There's a lot of reasons why I don't really want to fight over here anymore. There's not really interest of me doing so. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm seeing the way things work. You know, a lot of the bar MMA, maybe boxing, a lot of those industries are toxic as fuck. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't give room for growth as a fighter, really. It gives you an end point. You know what I mean? It doesn't give you a room for growth path, and it's just an end point, and I'm not interested in that. And I still want to build a legacy. So there's talks with a few major promotions in the States. I've just signed a contract with Jackson Wink, and Combat Sports Brothers, and it's a pivotal contract. It's quite nice the way it works. It gives me a lot of freedom to sort of go where I want to be going, and to have the guidance from them as well. And I'm working as well with Adam Newby, I believe. Yourself. And I've got a lot of love and respect for Adam Newby and what he's doing now, starting his own fight management sort of thing. So that's it. I'm keeping, nothing's changed for me. Like I've said it to my mate, I don't change my statements. I'm not, I'll die by my words as a man. There's no fakeness with it. There's just no fakeness. As raw as it gets, I just want to enjoy some really good fights now. Some really, really good fights, and rightfully do them in the place where I think they should be done. I've done the whole do this, and follow someone else's lead. This is the way it needs to be. And I'm lucky enough that I've got some people with me on side. So it's going to be an exciting 12 months ahead. Obviously there's been I wanted to take my bare knuckle debut way back when on another promotion in the UK. And it's just been one of them. It's been such a tricky thing to juggle between management and promoters cancelling stuff and never getting an agreement met, which is stupid for a debut. Do you know what I mean? It's a debut fight. And that's on the bare knuckle side of things. So that's the route we're still going, but it's looking like it's a healthy 12 months anyway. So for the future, it's a belt. It is that simple. I want a major belt. I know exactly which promotions I'm eyeing. I know exactly who I'm eyeing up, and that's as it is. I want to be rightly placed as a proper world champion, not a made up world champion, not a behind the shops, like a proper legitimate world champion. That's what I want. My name instated that way, and I've always said it. We're not stopping until we're going to get it. When it's as simple as it is.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Well, I tell you what, funny enough, I've said this to a few people lately. I'll say it to you as well. When that time comes and you've got that belt, and when that time comes and obviously the bare knuckle things, the ball started rolling, you're more than welcome to come back on here and we can do this again, and we can update people on those steps, if you like.
100%, definitely.
I don't say that to everybody. I don't. But with you, you'd be very welcome with that. We've talked about a lot. I mean, I'll wrap this up very shortly for people's attention spans. You know what that's like. But are there other people that you'd like to thank who've helped you? Have we missed anybody? Because I usually close out the interviews with whether it's thanking the fans and people who watch,
absolutely,
or anyone else that comes to mind who supports you in whatever shape that support comes in.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Keep it short and sweet. I'll thank my sponsors a whole clause. They know who they are. There's no advertisements there. It's not like that. But I do want to thank Chris Dixon and Kerry Dixon of Integrity Martial Arts, of which I'm a black belt under, for everything they did for me whilst I was in Scotland training. That's never, ever going to be forgotten. And I want to obviously thank the team that I've got around me, my coaches, and my family supporting me. Thank you.
It's good to give them a mention, and I like to give those people a shout out because obviously, as I always say, I mean, you obviously know them, they know you, you're all in life together, but from the outside world, they're sort of behind the scenes in a way. So it's good to give those people a mention that they deserve. Thank you for being an open book and for sharing some very sort of personal things about your life. Thank you for sharing some inspiration, because as well as this interview helped you, this interview helps me, but also it helps the people who listen to it as well. And that's a big part of the reason I do what I do, is just to give people hope and just to keep people from giving up, basically keep, pushing them forward, lifting them up. So we've definitely ticked that box today. I think we've covered pretty much everything. I know the WKU, the fixed fight, we missed that out, but we've talked about
We'll sideswipe that for legal reasons.
there we are then. There we are. But it's been an absolute pleasure, mate, and I'm really glad we finally got to do this, because I've wanted to do it for a long time. And I know you said you were going to contact me, and I contacted you in the end, but
Yeah,
it worked out, and I've had you in mind for a while. So I'm really glad that we finally
100%, 100%. I'll be staying in contact with you anyway. I'll keep doing your head in.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.